Hello and welcome to everybody watching today. I nearly said this morning, this afternoon. It's lovely to catch up with you all again. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Helena. I'm the National Coordinator for Cleft Friends, a project of Smile Foundation. And we are going into our session 2 now for the series Overcoming Trauma. And this series is being presented over 5 short sessions on our Facebook page and on our Instagram page every Wednesday at 3 p.m. So we trust that this initiative will create equal access for everybody during lockdown for mental health services and awareness. And if you did not catch last week's session, I'm going to post the link on our Facebook and Instagram page. So you're welcome to get that session from the Smile Foundation's YouTube channel. And please do hit the subscribe button. I've posted it there. I'll post it on Instagram in a bit because I'm using my phone here for that. And for those of you who are, I've said joining us, please feel free to comment, tag, say hi. I see Tori Small is there. Hi, Tori, on Instagram. I see you've joined us. I see Casa's joined us. Laura Rouse joined us. There's Quiet Machadiso's joined us. How's it? Gray Dolling's joined us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please go and share this link with your friends, with anybody who you think needs to be encouraged during this time. It's certainly not been an easy time for a lot of people. And I see we've got about 6 people watching us on the Facebook page. So feel free to say where you're watching from, tag a few friends, start a watch party. Let's create awareness and share this post with as many people as possible. And this session is not just for those affected by cleft lip and palate, it is for everybody. So I'd like to just start off with this quote, one of my favorite quotes by Elizabeth Edwards. She says, "She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her away, she adjusted her sails." And I absolutely love that quote. It's just what we need to hear for what we're going through at the moment. I see Machadisho says there seems the live is buffering, or is it my network? It could be anybody's network, Machadiso. I hope it stops soon. And I see Noni Bun there. Hi, Noni. Joining us today is Lynette Dean, a counseling psychologist from Port Elizabeth, who's part of Cleft Friends and the Smile Foundation team. Lynette, once again, it's lovely to have you with us.
Thanks, Elena. It's lovely to be here again.
Last week, we spoke about the grieving curve and specifically about shock, denial, anger, and disappointment. Lynette, could you start off by recapping that for us?
Yeah, sure, Helena. Like you mentioned, this is not just for Cleft Friends, it's also for anybody experiencing any emotional trauma during this time as a result of maybe a retrenchment, or even just the COVID-19 is a trauma in itself. So when that first hits us, it's like a storm that comes out of the blue. And when we speak about the Titanic, it's as if the Titanic's about to hit that iceberg. And it's what happens when we hit the iceberg. And that first feeling we spoke about last week was one of shock and denial. And the second feeling we spoke about was anger and disappointment as a response to the storm that we're in. Those are the first 2 stages, if we could call it that, on our grieving curve. And they're the same 2 when there's bereavement. So if we can ask Justin just to put our slide up, and we can just explain those first 2, and then we can head on to the next. Right, as you can see at the top there, that first feeling where you see that shock and the denial, that is where our ship gets hit by the storm, or in our case, the Titanic hitting the iceberg. And that's, so that would be the shock and denial. And then the next stage would be anger and then their disappointment. And can I go straight on to the bargaining and questioning then, Helena?
Yes, of course. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So the next stage that we get to after anger and disappointment is a bargaining phase. And it's also a questioning phase. And at this point, we ask ourselves, where did the storm come from? How did it happen? Also, was there something I could have done to prevent it from happening? So what we are, speaking about are like some questions we will get answers for. For example, if it's a medical trauma we're going through, there may be medical answers for that, but very often there aren't. These are just hypothetical questions we ask, like such as, why me? And very often when we bargain, we almost say to ourselves, if I do this, then maybe it will alleviate that. So for example, in terms of our lockdown, if we are bargaining and questioning the whole trauma of COVID-19, we could say to ourselves, well, if we stay indoors for the next 2 weeks, maybe it will be better. Maybe it won't have such an impact on us. All right. So that would be the bargaining, questioning phase. And at that stage, very often it's where people don't sleep at night because they lay awake thinking of these questions that are going on and on in their heads. I often call it the monkey chatter phase, where we just, can't quieten those monkeys in our heads. They just keep going on and on and on and on and on. All right. And then eventually we realize that no amount of shock or denial or anger or bargaining is going to stop the fact that the tsunami has hit that ship and there's a shipwreck. We end up at the bottom where there's the sadness, and it can be depression as well, which we'll speak about maybe next week. But if we do get a chance, we'll speak about it today.
Yeah.
And what we're really sad about actually is obviously the storm itself, but what has been lost as a result of the storm? What has been left behind? And this can be a number of things, obviously depending on the trauma we are speaking about. If we're speaking about maybe specifically cleft lip and cleft palate, you can say, what has been left behind? What did we lose? Well, we lost dreams and expectations of having this newborn baby and being able to breastfeed this baby and hold this baby in our arms. And if we're not able to breastfeed, that would be what has been lost. So that would be in terms of obviously cleft lip and palate. But when it comes to any other trauma, like let's say, for example, a retrenchment, there could be loss of income, loss of time, loss of self-esteem, those kinds of things.
For sure. Justin, you can move it off the screen for a little bit. Thank you so much. I just want to say hi to Anzel from Pretorius, from Rustenburg, Anzel Pretorius, sorry. And Belinda from Smile Foundation, lovely to have you there. I need to be in the center of my screen here. I see for those on Instagram. Lynette, we have a lot of people on Instagram today watching. I see Nadine Barnard. There's an Orthodox says hi. Cynic says hi. And I'm chuffed that we've got people watching, and I really hope that this feed encourages them. So yeah, tell us more about the bargaining and questioning phase and how long it usually takes for somebody to get to that phase.
Well, remember, these stages don't happen in a linear fashion. So when they've happened, they don't go away. They can keep going backwards and forwards while we are in the specific traumas that we're in. So there's no fixed period of time for the bargaining phase or their questioning phase. They just almost roll into one another. And as I say, when we do realize that no amount of that bargaining or that questioning is going to stop the fact that the tsunami has happened, that's when we start to experience the real sadness of that trauma. And like I mentioned, that sadness is obviously a normal response as well. Just remember, you cannot not be sad when you've experienced trauma, because there have been things that have been lost, things that have been left behind, we were speaking earlier on about the old normal. That's also been left behind. We don't have that anymore. So that, that
Yes.
sadness is a deepness, but it can also be a depression. If you've had
Yeah.
numerous things occurring over your lifetime or at numerous losses altogether, you can imagine those grieving curves being on top of one another. Depression could result because you've never had chance to really rebuild that ship before you hit again, so your resilience also takes a knock and we can become depressed. So that would be the worst case, scenario, which we would need to monitor. And if you do find yourself being really tearful for most of the time, not wanting to get out of bed because of your trauma, not eating well, not sleeping well, we could be looking at symptoms of depression as opposed to just a deep sadness. And then we would need to seek medical help probably.
Okay. And if there's anybody who's watching today, Lynette, how would you encourage them if they're the person watching and they just want to hide under the duvet and say, please just wake me up when this is all over? How would we encourage them to make that first step of getting up? And when do we know that we need to seek professional help?
Okay, well, I always say if something's interfering with your normal daily functioning for a period of a week to 2 weeks and you cannot do anything, you're demotivated, you're withdrawing from people, then it would be a time to actually seek medical help. But very often you don't see that. It's the other person in your family that sees it happening to you. So very often if you're the one that's depressed, you don't really care. You just want to pull that, blanket over your head and go to sleep. So if you are able to realize that this is happening to you, then it's great if you can seek medical help. But if you're not the one that it's happening to and you're watching from the outside, then try and encourage those people to seek help because they may not be coping with a situation as well as you are if you're in the same situation, for example.
Yes. For sure. We've got a few minutes left here. I always feel like we need a lot more time, which makes me more excited for, the next session to come, because we really have actually covered quite a chunk today. And I really hope if there's anybody watching, if you've got a question for Lynette or myself, feel free to ask. I see Philippa Marx is watching. Pietro Meyer, hi from Cape Town. Philippa's from Newcastle. My youngest was born with a cleft lip and palate. Lovely to have you guys watching with us. If you've got any questions for Lynette, let us know. You're welcome to WhatsApp me as well. I'll put my WhatsApp number here in the comments as well. And if there are any questions that you would like us to tackle perhaps in the next session, let us know. We are here for you. We can point you in the right direction, and we can certainly do that. Let me just go on to the next thing here. Lynette, is there anything you would like to add before we sign off for today?
I don't think so, Helena, but maybe just to end off on that depression story, following on from, this week's session, we're going to be speaking about rebuilding that ship next week. And that would also be about dealing with the depression, to overcome depression. So we just spoke about the symptoms of depression today, but next week we'll speak more about overcoming the depression when we rebuild that ship and we learn to cope.
Yes, I've got a question here from Matadisho. How can family members support their loved ones who are frontliners in the medical field?
Okay, well, I would always just say if you are able to listen, let them speak if they want to speak and just be there to listen and to almost reflect on them, that it must be difficult for them. But, just to offer them that emotional and also practical support wherever they can.
I'd like to just encourage those who are watching. Last week, we had a great response to the Cleft Bottles advert we put out. So if anybody would like to support with buying or donating bottles for babies affected by cleft lip and palate, I'll also post the link in our feeds. And I see Sam there. Sam, nice to see you too.
Good job. Good job, right?
And join us next week at the same time in the same place. And we will continue this conversation with regards to exploring and acceptance. So, if the session has made a difference in your life in some way, let us know in the comments. And then, Lynette, I'm going to end off with one of my favorite sayings here. You never know how strong you are until strong is the only choice you have. And that saying has really, it has really helped us as a Cleft community in many, many ways. And I know that hopefully it will help those who are listening today. So just be strong. Thank you, Lynette. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks very much.
Help us reach our target of purchasing 300 Cleft bottles for babies in need. For only 120 Rand, you can change a baby's life. For more information, you can go to smilefoundationsa.org. See you next week, Wednesday, the 3rd of June at 3 p.m. for the third session in the Titanic series.